Hi there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Nurturing Success. Today, I'm excited to have with me as our guest Lisa Rehburg. A little bit different than our normal guests, and I think this is really interesting the work she does, and I'm excited to have her tell you all about it. But before we do that, and before we jump into Lisa's background and how she's working with advisors, what are you grateful for today, Lisa? What's happening in your life you're grateful for?
I have two things I'm grateful for. On a personal level, John, my bar is pretty low. Every morning my husband gets up and makes me coffee. It's a good day. On a professional level, I'm always grateful to be able to call clients or advisors and say, hey, the check is in FedEx or the wire transfer's on the way.
Yeah,
Always fun.
love that. Well, good. So, we'll hop into so what Lisa does is called life settlements, which is actually something I had not heard a lot about until I met Lisa, and then we've gotten together a few times and done some work together, and it's been fulfilling and interesting because I think it's a really unique way of looking at what sometimes people don't think about as being an asset that they can potentially use in sort of their planning, especially as they age and things like that. So just give us a little bit more background on life settlements and your little piece there.
My little piece of the
Yeah.
world. So very briefly, 2.5 million seniors a year will lapse or surrender their life insurance policies. They're going to walk away with little or nothing. They don't want them. They don't need them. Life changes. Perhaps they can't afford them anymore, and they don't know there's another option. So I'm so grateful to be here, John, to be able to raise visibility. We are, as you mentioned, a life settlements broker. So we have a fiduciary duty to advisors and their clients to market a client's policy. And here you go, to sell it for a lump sum of cash. So it's a transaction where a buyer purchases the policy for lump sum. The buyer will take over the policy, they'll make the premium payments, and they will be the beneficiary on the policy. It's an investment for them. But thank goodness for them, because without them, we couldn't help clients get significantly more money than lapsing or surrendering.
So why would someone let a policy lapse? Why would it just kind of run out, and what would happen, and why do people do that?
They, for a couple reasons, right? Life changes. They don't need the policy anymore. The house is paid off. The kids are gone. Perhaps a spouse has passed away. And so they're like, yeah, I don't need this thing anymore, especially term policies, right? Yeah, I don't need this thing anymore. It's coming up to the end of the term. I'm not going to convert it, not going to do anything with it. And we sell term policies a lot, by the way.
Oh,
The second reason we see is the policies become unaffordable. And we see it all the time, primarily with universal life policies. As we get older, right, the cost of insurance goes up, cash values start to decrease and become chewed up, frankly. And clients have to put more money into the policies to keep them going, and they either don't want to or can't. And so we are a good solution. On average, our sales figures from last year, market wide, by the way, showed that the life settlements market generated on average 6 times cash surrender value for policies. So it's a big
no,
deal.
that is a big deal. And I think for the audience advisors that might be listening to this at some point, that would be important to know that because I would be willing to bet you that most advisors, maybe not, I shouldn't say most, that not a lot of advisors have even thought about this as being another way of generating cash for their clients where there's a need for it, right? And so I assume you've done a ton of education out there, right? And so how, I guess to be direct, and how do financial planners and advisors think about life settlements if they do know about it? What's the connotation typically?
It's a really good question, and it varies. So some advisors are like, "Ooh, life insurance, I don't even want to touch it at
Yeah.
all," right? Some advisors are have been around for a while and remember when the market started and there was no regulation, so there's a negative connotation. So I'm happy to
Hmm.
be here to say we are highly regulated by departments of insurance across the country, including the buyer. So it's a really big deal today. But when it started, no regulation, so there can be a negative connotation. And some, frankly, broker dealers quash the idea of talking about life settlements, which, in my opinion, is unfortunate because when we have fiduciary duties to clients, we have an obligation to be able to do the best for them that we can. Real briefly, as an example, we have a doctor who's selling his $1 million second to die policy, by the
Hmm.
way. Wife passed away. He just doesn't need it. And the premiums are $62,000 a year to continue
Wow.
it. And he's like, Yeah, right? I mean, that's a lot of
Yeah.
money. And he's carried it for quite some time, and it has no cash in it. And we're getting him $400,000 for it. Like, how is that bad? Right. So, a lot of advisors, back to your point, have misperceptions about what this is and about how this works. And then there are some that are proactive in looking at their clients and asking them during final review, which is typically this time of year, um, what do you have for life insurance policies? Is it still doing its job, basically?
Yeah, and I would have to think that advisors would take a more holistic, although I do think that word is kind of overused these days because I'm not sure that everyone, even if they claim to be holistic, if they're actually following holistic sort of guidelines. But that being said, it would appear to me that most advisors should really be looking at it and actually digging a little deeper into their insurance. Which is, so take me back to fiduciary, right? So you mentioned early on that you're a fiduciary. Is that connected to the fact that you're a broker? And maybe it's a two-part question. So the fiduciary part, and how's that connected to you being a broker in this world, as opposed to there must be a direct source somewhere if there's a broker.
Exactly. So I want to clarify, and my apologies for not being more clear. I'm not a fiduciary. I'm not a licensed
No,
fiduciary, right?
no,
But
thank you. Thanks
as
for the
a
clear. Yeah, but
yeah, but
you
as
act as
a
a fiduciary.
broker,
Yeah.
yes, yes. As a broker, I have a fiduciary duty, uh, and the state mandates that as well, to market a client's policy. So you're right. There are two ways to do this, and there are providers. What we call providers, essentially, they're buyers direct. They are all over the internet and the TV and the radio and everything else. And so many clients will do that because they, see the 800 number. And that's great in that at least these entities are raising visibility. So I appreciate that. But here's the downside. These buyers, not unlike you or I, John, if we're going to go buy a car, we're not trying to pay the most amount of money for the car, right? These buyers are not trying to pay the most amount of money for the policy. They do not have a fiduciary duty to clients. And so I can almost guarantee you, because there's nothing guaranteed but death and taxes. So I can almost guarantee you that if a client calls the 800 number or the advisor does, they are going to be underselling their policy. So as brokers with the fiduciary duty, we market their policy to many different providers or buyers. We introduce competition and we make these buyers basically outbid each other. So whoever's left at the end of the process is the highest offer in the marketplace. So it's a completely different set of focuses. One's trying to get it as low as possible. We're trying to get it as high as possible.
Uh, Thank you. That's a great explanation. Maybe I shouldn't wander off on a tangent here, but it reminds me of the way that people treat people in my world who are talking about reverse mortgages, right? And so consumers will see a late night ad and they see maybe a famous
Mhm.
spokesperson and they go, "Oh gosh, this is something I should check out." They call that phone number and they get some information, which again is marketing at the end of the day for all the people in the industry, which is fine. But then they don't realize that there might be several sources that may offer different products or different terms and so forth, and you're only going to access that through the broker network, which is where I work. So it is interesting, that correlation. So anyway,
No, you and I have had this
yeah,
conversation before that our worlds are very similar in a lot of different
yeah.
ways.
So thinking over sort of your interactions with financial planners slash advisors over the last little while, what are the things that advisors are kind of talking about or thinking about? And I know you're in a very specific niche, but they're probably talking about other stuff as well. What kind of conversations are you having these days?
It's kind of all over the map, John. So obviously, some advisors are trying to help their clients figure out ways to pay for long-term care,
Hmm?
right? Figure out ways to pay for retirement. And so this is an asset that can be used for that, clearly, because the money can be used for anything. A lot of them are just trying to help their clients build wealth. Or what I'm hearing a lot is clients saying, I never thought I'd live this long. And we thought our money was going to last, right? And now it's not. And so once again, you and I can give real clients, advisors, and their clients good solutions to assist them. I mean, obviously, we're not perfect for everybody, and I'm
Yeah.
not sitting here saying that we are perfect for everybody. I'm just saying that please don't let your clients lapse or surrender a policy because it's an asset, and we're here.
No, that's a great point. And so when you end up talking to a consumer, right, the owner of the policy currently, what kind of concern, what do they bring up, and what are the questions they're asking you, and how does that flow kind of go in your world?
Right. Yeah. So once again, everyone's kind of focused on different things, but I see this a lot. Obviously, how long does a process take? 3 to 5 months, because we're like marketing a house. Are there HIPAA protections? They don't use the word HIPAA, but what's going to happen to my medical records? Because this is how the buyers are going to evaluate for life expectancy. We are opposite regular insurance world. So flip a regular insurance world upside down. The more health impairment, shorter life expectancy, the more valuable a client's policy is. So point is, what's going to happen to my
Mm.
medical records? There's HIPAA protections in place. And here's obviously, I've never heard of this, and I assure them it's legal and highly regulated. But here's one that comes up. Not often, but it's a good question that I'm going to raise anyway. Is someone going to kill me?
Oh,
Right? Is someone going to buy my policy and then off me? And it doesn't happen a lot, but it's a good question.
it's a
And
really
and
good question.
it's a really good question. And the short answer is no, no one's going to off you, because first of all, we only sell policies to those regulated buyers through the Department of Insurance, right? It has to be approved by the DOI. And the Department of Insurance, it's not like you send in a form on a cocktail napkin. I mean, there's a lot of vetting that comes into play. There's a lot of compliance. Beneficiaries have to sign off. Doctors have to sign off that the clients have sound mind. There's a lot of things that go in here
Oh,
to
interesting.
protect clients. And these buyers can be and are audited. So they have to have all their ducks in a row.
That's neat.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking, like, okay, so could the mafia be a buyer, and they have
Yes.
a certain enforcement arm that,
Yeah. 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 That actually is a question, because they want to know who buys it. And that's a fair
no,
question.
it's a really
And
good question.
it's a really good question. So the short answer is hedge funds, college endowment funds, mutual funds. This is institutional money
Yeah.
that are buying these policies. And every once in a while, we'll have high net worth individuals buy, but once again, it's through these licensed approved providers. So there's a firewall and HIPAA protections in place to take care of clients. That's important.
Uh, that's yeah. I'm sure it's helpful, and we're not going to deep dive into any of those things, but I think it's helpful for people to sort of hear how it works and how it goes. But so, and I know you've been in this part of the industry for a while, but you were on the other side, right? You were on the sales side of the insurance business. What attracted you to this, and how did you end up doing the work you're doing today?
Oh, good question. So you're right. I've been in the insurance industry, yeah, over 3 decades,
Okay,
like
I'm
35 years.
35 years in mine too. This is okay.
Yeah, we did it. And back to your point, I was in corporate for a long time, right, running sales teams, and it was time for me to not be in an airport every week, and I mean like for 4 days a week.
Yeah.
It's time for me to be closer to home. So bottom line is, I looked at what is something that I can do that's different, that can bring value to advisors and insurance agents, and their clients, because I know so many of them through my corporate life, right, for 25 years, and found life settlements. I love the fact they're regulated. I would not be here if it wasn't. And just started educating, because that's what we're here to do, right? Educate as many advisors and insurance agents as possible. This is a solution for your clients in the right circumstances. And I absolutely love it.
That's I appreciate you sharing it. So your business is sort of really fascinating because you have the sales side where you're trying to get people to understand your business, right, and what you do. Then on the other side, you're also taking, if someone trusts you with that transaction, then you're going to the other side and trying to maximize value out there in the marketplace, right? So you're sort of selling on both sides. What tell me some things in your personal practice that you think have made you successful in this world, and processes or workflows that you think are somewhat unique to what you do.
It's interesting. It's old-fashioned relationships, John. I mean, on both
Yeah.
sides, right? Meaning that on the advisor, insurance agent side, because most of my business, and I mean like vast, vast, vast majority, 98%, 99%, is financial advisor and insurance agent. So it's those old-fashioned relationships. I'm on the phone a lot. I'm sure you are too. But we have to have relationships with the buying entities, the providers
Mm,
as well. So it is clear, once again, my duty's over here, but we have to have those relationships, because otherwise, you need to know where to go, and you need to ask for favors. Can you?
yeah,
You know how that goes.
sure,
You need to have leverage. You just have to. So, bottom line is that a lot of it is old-fashioned phone work, relationships. Visibility, still public speaking, and once again, delighted to be here to raise visibility.
sure.
Anything that I can do to educate, that's what I'm here to do.
Neat. I guess on that note, because I already know the answer, but help the audience. So yeah, you do go out and speak quite a bit about this kind of stuff, and you're located here in Southern California, and that's work you like to do, right? I mean, you'll go almost anywhere to talk about this stuff, right?
Pretty much. Yeah, I was just in Tucson like 2 weeks ago.
So you were in Tucson, great. Oh, that's good.
I was.
Well, perfect. I love to hear that. And so I just want to go back to, you mentioned it could take 5 or 6 months for a policy to get sold. And that didn't really catch me off guard, because we probably talked about it in the past. But just elaborate a little bit on why that takes so long, and why it's important actually that it takes that long.
Yeah. Yeah. We average about 4 months.
Okay.
But 3 to 5 is about, the normal time. And to be clear, we can accelerate that a little bit, but let's talk about the process as you asked. It starts with an application. Here's the important thing. No application fee. It does not cost a client anything to find out how much their policy is worth. Nothing. We have to get medical records. That is the tough part. That's the longest part of the process. So we have to get medical records, and we have to get illustrations of those premium projections from the insurance company. And then once we have that data, then we send it out into the market. If the client already has their medical records, or going to help expedite the medical records, that is going to really decrease that time frame. So, and then we have to market the policy, meaning that the buyers need time to evaluate those medical records, figure out what someone's life expectancy is, right? Compare it to
Mm,
the illustrations. That can take 30 to 45 days. So I'd like to say, from the time we get an application in, 60 to 90 days before we find out really what buyers are willing to pay, and to allow us to leverage those buyers against each other and get that maximum value on average.
yeah.
Once we have an offer, here's the important part, in my opinion: clients are not obligated to sell. They could just say, that's not enough, not enough incentive for me, or whatever, and they just walk away. That's rare, because by the time we're talking to advisors, their clients, like, right, they're done with their policies. But they can do that. No, I don't want to do that. And I've had that happen, and clients come back 3, 4 years later. I should have sold it. Can you relook at it again? But bottom line is, they don't have to take it. If they do take it, then it's probably about 4 to 6 weeks before they have money in their
Yeah.
hand. Once again, on average, I'm just kind of giving generalities.
Got it. Cool. All right. Well, I appreciate that. And so I have no idea if this is a good question or not for you, but I'm always when I'm talking to advisors, sort of in this format here, I'm always looking for advice for younger folks. I'm not sure that's the right word either, but for folks that want to get into your world, get in the industry, because I have no idea if there's people trying to come in, if it's like many industries that are dominated by a certain demographic that's our age and older, those kind of things.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
right. Watch it, John.
you want more people.
Don't blow the 28 in my head thing.
Well, and I'm 39. That's okay.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give to folks that are thinking about sort of the world you work in, that might want to get into it?
Yeah, there's not a lot of us
Yeah.
in the country. So we do work nationwide, by the way, but there's not a lot of us in the country. I think the more voices that we have that are educating not consumers and advisors, that is a very good thing. It's a competitive market in that there's not a lot of us, it's a smaller world, so we kind of know each other. There's a lot of money on the buyer side, which is a good thing. Point is that it's a very, very nichey,
Yeah, for sure.
and so if someone's younger and wants to get into the world, come on in, right? That's great. But it's going to be, I think, a harder lift than if someone's in the general insurance world.
Yeah.
At least to start. I'm not trying to say don't come in. I'm just saying to put your foot in the water in this world is a little different than trying to start in the general insurance world somewhere. And that's probably what I would tell someone to do, is get your feet wet there and then branch in.
Yeah, that makes total sense, because it is such a niche product, and you have to
Mhm.
sort of have a background of understanding. So, I mean, it's almost, again, I'm using the analogy to, reverse mortgages is very difficult for someone who doesn't have sort of a background in advice around mortgages and sort of liability planning, as we call it, to sort of say, hey, I'm going to start doing reverse mortgages. It's not, you can't just jump right into it. You need to have some sort of background. Um,
Yeah, you do. You have to have the expertise,
sure.
John, back to your point, and you have to have the buyer network as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes into it. It's not a simple thing.
Yeah, I hear you. So good. All right, so we're going to wrap up here pretty quickly here. What advice would you give to financial planners, advisors that maybe they haven't heard before, either with your world or something else? Just something's on your mind. This advice for them right now.
What I would say is it's pretty simple. If you have a client and the two of you have decided that this life insurance policy is no longer doing its job and they're going to get rid of it somehow, some way, right? Please don't do that until you talk to a life settlements expert, preferably a life settlements broker, preferably me. But please talk to a life settlements expert
Yeah.
and see if the policy has value in the life settlements market. Because going back to your point earlier, a lot of people do not know this is even a thing, and they could be leaving. I use that doctor's case,
Yeah.
$400,000
Crazy.
behind.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and we live in a world of cash flow, but most especially when you're looking to age in place and so forth, cash flow becomes very valuable. And the work that we do is all about cash flow and so forth, trying to help people find cash flow. And certainly, on that opposite side, people say, "Well, great, here's a premium, I don't need it anymore," and those kind of things. I can easily see people saying, "Well, I don't need this. Why am I still paying for it?" And
Yeah.
an advisor unthinkingly might go, great, that's good. Let's save that $400 a month or whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
And there you go. You've lost an asset that could have been very valuable to them. Um,
Hmm.
so cool.
Oh, sorry, real quickly. And
Yeah.
back to your point, sometimes this might surprise people that the clients are trying to get out from underneath those premium payments, right? It's the cash flow. So we're selling a policy right now, real quickly,
Yeah. Okay.
a $400,000 policy, and the premiums are $28,000 a year right now to maintain it. So it's not necessarily always about how much the clients get out of the settlement, because sometimes it might be 20 or 30,000. It
Mm,
might not be a lot, but it's that exhale because now I have $28,000 a year that I don't have to pay into a policy that I don't need.
yeah, that's a really valuable point, and I think stands out. So it's not always about what the value of the policy. Just to restate it again, it's not about what the policy might bring you in a lump sum. It could be a combination. Yeah, I might get a smaller lump sum, but I've also eliminated that cash
Mhm.
flow payment. And in that case, $20,000 is a lot of money. I mean, that's
Right.
significant for someone. So cool. All right. Well, we're just about to wrap up here. I assume that you would be happy to talk to anyone that hears this at some point and chat with them
Yes.
about what you do, right?
Yes. Yes,
Good.
please. Thank you.
Well, perfect. And I'm gonna leave the last word with you. If there's some thought you want to put out in the world that, and it doesn't have to be about what we're talking about today, but just any thought out in the world. You started with having a beautiful cup of coffee in the morning from your husband. Where do you
Yes.
want to leave us?
You know what? I just want to leave everybody with peace and love. Really, I think we all deserve it.
Yeah,
Peace, love, and prosperity.
love it. Perfect. Well, thank you, Lisa. We'll see you soon.
Pleasure, John. Thank you so much. Have a great
All right,
day.
you're welcome.